right, how you doing out there, my friends? J.R. Dukes here. I want to welcome all you free-minded thinkers. I got another great video for you today in the wake of the latest Republican debate. You may have seen the four individuals that partaked in this particular debate, and the picture I'm about to show you right now on your screen is, of course, I'm just going to call him Vic. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name all the time, but you can see Mr. Vic right here talking heavy stuff concerning Nikki Haley and that she was corrupt. Of course, this was a very widely distributed photo right here, and I wanted to tell you that on Fox and Friends, man, did they take this guy to task. Wait till you see this. Now, it starts off kind of mundane, a little bit of chit-chat, but then Brian Kilmeade gets a hold of him, and it's a little bit of a dogfight. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. So here we go.
Well, he had the most speaking time at that debate stage last night. Vivek Ramaswamy spent much of it in those scathing attacks against Nikki Haley.
Vivek Ramaswamy is with Lawrence. He is live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, family. Vivek Ramaswamy is here with us. Any supporters of Vivek in here? Okay. Big debate last night. I think I would call it vintage debate. You went after everyone on the stage. What was the goal of last night's performance? Was it to win people over, or were you trying to expose each individual candidate?
Well, look, I would say neither of the above for an individual debate. The goal of the debate is to speak the truth in an unvarnished way. My whole political strategy in this campaign of how we're going to win in the end is speak the hard truths, especially those that the media is unwilling to confront. And so I'm the only candidate on that stage who's really able to speak without that special interest corporate filter. That's what I continued to do last night. I think a lot of what we exposed were a lot of the hypocrisies and double standards applied to different candidates. But I think the people at home deserve to see every candidate for who they are. This is an important process. And you know what? I'm not going to be playing with kid gloves with Xi Jinping when I'm dealing with him. We're not going to do the same thing in an election either. So that's what the debates are about. And then we're going to Iowa later today where we're going to have, I think, more grassroots, different kind of context. And so there's a time and place for everything, but the debate is for drawing contrasts, and that's what I did.
What is going on between you and Ambassador Haley? It seems a little personal.
Well, I would say that there's a deep ideological divide in the GOP. There's an older generation that believes in funding foreign wars, and I think doubly it's even worse when people are making money off those foreign wars. I was a skeptic and critic of the Iraq war back when, and she was a supporter of it, and it's continued all the way through this agenda. But I think it takes a very dark turn when people are making money off of our foreign policy. I've been as vocal as anybody criticizing Joe Biden for the fact that his son gained $5 million in a bribe for what I believe is influencing their decisions to send our taxpayer money to Ukraine. But I can't criticize Biden credibly for that when Republicans are equally guilty of the same thing or worse.
Folks, there's no doubt that we definitely have an issue with making money off of wars. I think that's been going on probably since the beginning of our country. However, someone like Vic, I like some of the things he says. He sounds really intelligent. I mean, come on, let's be honest about it. He's very well spoken. He pulls out these big words quickly and he just rambles, and he sounds like he really has it all together. But one thing I definitely disagree with Vic on is the fact that he is just wrong when it comes to these isolation type policies in the world. You know, if he was president, he was running our country, he would simply have it to where we essentially close ourselves off. And the problem with that is anybody that knows history knows the following. If you don't remember history, you're doomed to repeat history. And any time in American history we have had this type of isolationism, it has always resulted in something terrible, such as World War I and especially World War II. We didn't even enter World War II until Pearl Harbor. For the longest time, we were supplying weapons to Britain and our other allies, and we just simply didn't want to get involved in the war for obvious reasons. And as a result, Nazi Germany was able to continue to grow and wreak the havoc that they caused all over the world. Thank God we finally entered it. But someone like Vic needs to understand that, unfortunately, with today's type world, you don't have the luxury of just staying home and ignoring the rest of the world.
In her case, after stepping down from the UN, becoming a military contractor, joining the board of Boeing, whose back she scratched for years as governor of South Carolina, and then now, after Hillary Clinton gave speeches, we criticized her for that. Now speeches to foreign actors making millions.
So Vivek,
I apply the same standard is what I say.
I follow you. You've been attacking her for a while on that. And she's surging in the polls. Polls that you cited before of Vivek is coming out swinging. You were positioned on the stage. It doesn't look like that line of attack is working with the supporters that you're trying to gain. Do you believe that you may have come off too strong, even though there may be some policy differences, some that Donald Trump even agrees with you on as well, who's the front runner? But do you think you're gaining ground, besides young voters, which is a critical electorate right now?
So I'll say three things to that, Lawrence. First of all, I think I exposed the media's double standards on that. In each of the last two debates, she's called me four-letter words. One of them was dumb and then scum. Last night's debate, I revealed that she doesn't know the first thing about foreign policy that she touts. And the thing they criticize me for already, the mainstream media, is daring to criticize her intelligence.
But I'm not asking
so I say the quiet part out loud, which is two X chromosomes applies different standards in the media.
I'm not talking about
but
the
you're talking
media,
about my strategy.
I'm asking you,
my
how are you going to get the support of the people? Because that's what matters. None of us matter.
So I think these polls are way off.
They started to get a little heated already. Just wait till you see the second host that gets a hold of them.
And I'll tell you why. Many of the people coming to our events on the ground in Iowa, I mean, if you come to Iowa, where I'm heading now, see our crowd sizes versus the mainstream media narrative. It's a little bit like Trump in 2016. It's off. And many of the people coming are not traditionally polled caucus-going candidates. So if those people come out, we're going to
take a look at this poll briefly. I actually did a little bit of research on this right here. It is showing the polling averages, in other words, an average of certain polls that have already been taken versus how many days the individual candidate has been actually campaigning for president, for the Republican nomination. And interestingly enough, Vic has overwhelmingly been out campaigning the most amount of days. However, he is only at 5.1% average when you average all the polls together, which is the lowest of any candidate except Asa Hutchinson, the guy from Arkansas.
Deliver a major surprise on January 15th in Iowa. I have full confidence in that. But the other thing is what I told you at the beginning, Lawrence, is I'm not in this to play some political calculus. I will speak my convictions. I will speak them honestly. Sometimes that's difficult to hear. But if you want a candidate who's going to get in there and take down the deep state, somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who is going to speak the truth to you. And sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Sometimes that's a journey. And I don't think that that's going to be an immediate political calculus. And if I was listening to my
you can tell he's pretty hard-headed. He wants to control the questioning. He wants to say what he's already prepared to say. He does not like it when pressure is brought to bear on him and he's being rather focused on, hey, you need to answer the question I'm asking you. He really is hard to pin to the wall. It's like trying to nail jelly to the wall.
Political consultants, I'd be doing things differently, but I'm not. And I think people in this country are hungry for somebody who speaks the unvarnished truth. That's who I think will be rewarded in the long run. And I would rather speak the truth and even lose an election than to win by playing some political snakes and ladders. But my long run.
Well, get ready, Vic. You're about to lose this election.
Bet is that's what's going to be most successful.
Vivek Ramaswamy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to send it back to you guys in New York. See you guys in the ground.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't have FB to.
Okay, they're going to go right back to him, so give it a second here.
Yeah, but the problem, I just like to know, when this policy, it's just ridiculous on Russia and Ukraine. He says, tell Russia basically they can have Ukraine if they promise not to have an alliance with China. I mean, if there's.
Yeah, they're about to go right back to Vic. And trust me, Brian here on the far left, Brian Kilmeade, he's about to, let's just say he's got a few things he wants to ask Vic.
Can we hear us now? Hey, Vivek.
I can hear.
Vivek, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable with Russia taking as much as Ukraine as they want? Are you comfortable pulling all our aid out? And do you really believe that Vladimir Putin will agree not to have an alliance with China?
I think we have to play hardball there and make a hard deal that requires any reneging on that deal to have major consequences.
Like what? Like
for
sanctions,
so
like we have right now?
Well, look, I think that we have to be able to have real consequences, maximum pressure campaign. We have sanctions. We don't have a maximum pressure campaign. And I can go into the details of that, and I have at the Nixon Library and elsewhere. But what I'm saying, Brian, is the clear principles are this war doesn't advance U.S. interests.
Yes, it does.
Russia-China
If you give
alliance
up Eastern
is the top
Europe,
threat that
if you
we
give up
face.
Eastern Europe, we're being a world war.
If I may ask you a question, if
Right.
you asked the question, I want to make sure I
I'm just
answer
going to
it.
answer
I'll
you.
give
It is in
detailed-
our interest.
Detailed contours of a deal. I think it is not in our interest to strengthen the Russia-China alliance, and I think our policy
It's
right
gonna be
now
done
is
anyway.
driving Russia further into China's arms.
It's going to be
I
done
disagree
anyway.
with you, Brian. I
You
respectfully disagree with you
cannot
on
keep
that.
Russia from China.
I think Russia is going. I think the answer is we are driving Russia into China's hands. There are kinks in the armor of that relationship. Look at Russia sending weapons to India and to Vietnam after other meetings they've had. This is our opportunity. Nixon did this in 1972, and Brian, respectfully, people like you said the same thing, that Nixon
Right.
couldn't do it. Well, it takes an
72,
outsider who's
I was
skeptical of that establishment. That's going to be me.
I was 7 years old.
But you, we can both. You and I are both students of history, and I trust you to know that.
Are you comfortable giving up Eastern Europe? Because you know they're already taking Moldova, already making moves on the Baltic already. They're taking more and more pieces of
I'll tell you
Georgia.
what I'm not
And
comfortable
all
with.
we've done is sit there and send blankets and MREs, and we got an invasion. So what is going to be next?
Because we have no idea how Ukraine has spent $200 billion of our money. We're forking over more taxpayer money.
Do you
so
see how they
Ukrainian
fight?
kleptocrat can buy a
These
bigger
guys
house.
are the best
That's
fighters in
corrupt,
the.
and I'm not going to stand for that.
Ukrainians are probably the
That's a
best
lie.
fighters in the
Ukraine
world.
is not some democracy.
Ukraine is fighting
Ukraine-
for their
Ukraine is not
sovereignty.
and
they were
Here's
invaded.
something that the news
They would
media
have
has
invaded.
reported. Ukraine has actually assassinated a former presidential
It just
candidate
makes
from
you sound
2019.
so
but somehow the media
naive.
doesn't like to report that.
So naive.
Well,
You just
Brian,
give up
I
Ukraine, and then in a few years you'll be
that goes the
criticizing
other
Joe
way.
Biden for giving up
I
Ukraine.
respectfully, we can respectfully, Brian, I think that if I called Nikki Haley naive, you guys would be having a conniption. Let's be honest about that. But you want to call me naive? I actually understand what the heck I'm talking about
Who's
here.
he- really?
Nixon did this in '72. We can actually split
Just-
up the Russia-China alliance
and what
advance
happened?
American interests,
I think
and protect
World
our
War
own
II
homeland.
is your better
That's what-
example.
I think it is offensive.
World War II
Well, I
is your
think,
better
World War
example.
II,
One
if
is
you
a
use the example
diplomatic
from World War II,
approach, and one is an active
Japan and
war.
Germany.
All right.
If you could have split up Japan and Germany, then I do think that you actually have a good example
Really?
of World War II.
You were going
If
to
could have split
convince
up that
Hitler not
axis,
to
that
go
would have
with
been
a
better for
fascist
the world.
nation?
And I'm not talking about convincing anybody, Brian, but the fact of the matter is I think it is offensive that people would sooner use $200 billion of our resources to protect some other nation's foreign border that's not a democracy, when in fact
you can
we're not
do
even
both.
doing that effectively
You can
here
do
on
both. It's
our
not
own
either
border.
or.
We're doing neither.
It's
We
neither.
are
It's
doing
not
neither,
either or.
Brian, and that's
All
the
right.
fact of the matter.
All right. Well, that is very interesting to say the least. That is. I thought it was pretty cool when I first saw it. I was like, wow, a little bit of passion, putting him under the, drilling down on him like that. I like Vic. I like some of the things he says, but when it comes to foreign policy, I think he's just wrong. I will agree that when it comes to Ukraine, this is an extremely complicated situation when it comes to Ukraine. Obviously, invading another sovereign nation is a problem. I want to hear from you. I want a conversation from you. Do you agree with Vic or do you agree with Brian Kilmeade? Which one do you see is as correct as far as Eastern Europe and the policies that we're discussing? I really want to know. Leave it in the comments below. I will tell you this. It is a very complicated thing. When you look at a country like Russia that has more nuclear weapons technically than the United States has, and they're dealing with their next door neighbor, a country that they used to be one and the same, it becomes very complicated. I don't see a situation where Russia is going to lose. At least I don't see them losing Crimea and the Donbass and the other areas that they have taken over in that particular area. I just don't see that as a reasonable possibility. Perhaps the reason they are drip, drip, drip on the funding is they don't want to oversupply Ukraine. They want Ukraine eventually to go to the bargaining table and to make some kind of compromise, unfortunately, with Russia. You hate to reward bad behavior, but this man is sitting on 6,000 to 7,000, 7,500 nuclear weapons. This is very serious business. And again, I don't want to get too deep on this, but you have to remember, Ukraine is to Russia arguably what Texas is to the United States. Can you imagine, for example, if Texas broke off, was independent for some time, and then Russia was trying to aid Texas in a fight against the United States. It just gets really complicated. And I know what I'm saying is extremely controversial, but so be it. I'm telling you, this is the reality if you look at it through the eyes of individuals in Russia. Now, this war has gone horribly for Putin. It has increased his border with the alliance of NATO by at least 800 miles because he has forced Finland, that has been neutral for many, many years, into the arms of NATO. So either way you slice it, this is not a good thing, but we do have to find a way to get out of this war, or at least to have some kind of settlement to where it does not end up in a world war. We don't want to appease anybody. We learned that from Hitler. But at the same time, we have to look at the reality on the ground, the reality of the situation, what we caused by allowing NATO to keep expanding. And I'll deal with all that in another video. But tell me, do you agree with me or disagree with me? Put it in the comments below. I want a conversation about this. I really want to know what you think. As always, I appreciate you joining me today. Keep that mind free and never give up. And until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.